Hey, what's up, Park? You got some cool new toys here in the last couple of weeks. I saw. I assume those are yours. The couple was those guitars that you posted. I can't Deviant or something like that. I can't remember the name of the brand. I wasn't familiar with them, but well, I am Groot says, man, just saying, it looks like a guitar dungeon in there. Well, it granted it is a bit of a shithole, because I've been selling some stuff and moving some stuff around, and it is a bit of a mess here at the moment, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I promise it won't be. Hopefully, it won't be a shithole for too much longer. Yep, I still got a lot of things to change over with the name, but I still got to go through my entire Teespring shop and and update all that stuff. But all kinds of stuff. But I'm actually glad to have. I'm really glad to have just pulled the trigger and just done it. Deviant Reapers. That's right. Another amp coming on Wednesday. What amp you got on the way? Uh, a Bang Fatih. There's a name I've not seen before. In the chat there, welcome to you. Serenity says, you doing the band thing yet? I am not. I was going to. I was getting pretty serious about putting something together here with some guys here in town, and some family stuff came up, and had to take priority, and it's still taking priority. So it doesn't looks like YouTube's gonna be the only place that unless I get recruited to for a one off something or other here somewhere, I don't know, but uh, as far as anything serious, regularly gigging band, the only place anybody's gonna be seeing me doing anything like that anytime soon is gonna be on YouTube. So Park Kinger has a Laboga Mr. Hector on the way. I ordered 11 months ago. I've heard good things about those Laboga amps. I've never actually played through one. I know Henning's had one there in his studio for ever. I've never heard him play it, but Sean Weiss, Cubs fan one. What's up, dude? Says, have you ever listened to the band Blue Murder? Have you tried any Victory amps? Blue Murder, no, not familiar with them. Victory amps, yeah, I've played through a few of them. Most of the ones that I've played through, but they're high gain monsters. You know, I think Fluff just demoed one on his channel here just in the last few days. I haven't watched it yet, but um, so I guess I don't know his thoughts on it, but he typically demo stuff that he likes, so. Let's see who else is in here. Dwight Bailey, Scott Brockway, Martian Murray, Charles 75N, William Hall. Lots of people hanging out here today on this chilly Saturday, at least here in the Midwest. Hmm. Let's see. So then he says, would you ever do the Ola Rift challenge he has every week? Oh boy. I have honestly I haven't seen one of those videos in a while. Would I? Not that I'm opposed to doing it, but it's just one more thing that I don't have time for. You know, I would enjoy doing it. Nothing. I mean, whether or not he would choose mine, to be part of it or not, would be a different story. But yeah, it'd be something fun to do. I mean, I'm not the greatest riffer in the world. I don't have his riffing skills by any means. He's terrific at it, especially in the metal genre. But so I'm not Ola, but that would be fun to participate in. Scott Brockway says, "Wasn't Blue Murder the John Sykes band?" Yeah. Now you're ringing some bells. Yes, I think you might be right about that. That said, I don't. That's still a band that I never got into. Most of the John Sykes stuff that I'm familiar with was, White Line or White Snake stuff. He's been, unfortunately, he's been pretty quiet. Since the late '80s. He's made a few appearances here and there, but he's still around. But at least according to Eddie Trunk, but nobody seems to know. He hasn't done a whole lot, at least not publicly. Pardon me. You gonna watch the Stupid Bowl? I always watch the. Well, you can call it the Stupid Bowl if you want. I call it the Super Bowl because it is the Super Bowl. There's no bigger sporting event of the year than the Super Bowl, and me being a diehard NFL fan, yes, I will be watching the Super Bowl. Don't necessarily have a favorite this year because it's usually if my Colts aren't playing in it, then the next option is if there's a team in it that's playing that I absolutely hate, like the Patriots. So I would like the last time the Eagles were in it, I was pulling for the Eagles by default because they were playing New England. So this time around, I don't necessarily, I don't really hate New England or the Chiefs. The Colts actually beat the Chiefs this year, by the way, and we damn near beat the Eagles. But so yeah, I don't, I don't know. I guess I would like to see the Eagles win because Nick Sirianni got that head coaching job because he was they were interested in him because he was our offensive coordinator prior to that under Frank Reich. So, I would like to see Sirianni get him his first Super Bowl win. Especially now that Andy Reid has his. Because it took Andy Reid forever to get to win one, and he definitely earned it as well. So there's my football rant. Scott Brockway, Sean Wise, Cubs fan, says he was also in Thin Lizzy. That's right, I forgot about that. He was also in Thin Lizzy. But that was back in the '70s, though. I mean, are Thin Lizzy even still around in any like even a touring capacity anymore? I don't think they are. Scott Brockway says, and Tigers of Pantang. That one I've never heard of. I am Groot says, love it. Big baby Brady retired again. Go Eagles. I don't know. Yeah, I absolutely despise the Patriots, and it was, as a Colts fan, I gotta admit, it was a lot of fun being part of that Colts Patriots, Manning Brady rivalry, back in the 2000s and in early 2010s. I mean, that got pretty intense, and was the biggest rivalry in sports for a long time. That said, as much as I hated the Patriots and still hate the Patriots because of it, I've always loved Tom Brady. You'll never convince me that he was better than Peyton Manning. If roles were reversed and Peyton played for Belichick and the Eagles and Brady were here, you'll never convince me that that he was better than Manning. But after the career that he had, we're going to look back on, if you're not already, you're gonna look back and be really, really grateful that we got to witness that, because it was, he did have the best career that anybody's ever had. So you just think, what quarterback plays until he's 45 in the NFL? Dude, I'm 45. The thought of me trotting my ass out on any football field, let alone an NFL one, screw that. Give me my PlayStation. Jack Bird says, do the load boxes actually replace the speaker for recording? Let's say something like the Two Notes, for example. They can. I don't know if you guys, you can't see it, and I got it plugged in so I can't move it. But there's actually, I've got a captor right next to me, and in my other recording rig in the other room, I actually have there's a Torpedo Live in that rack, and yes, the advantage to using. The load box isn't going to replace the speaker. The load, well, yes, it is, because that's what's going to keep your tube amp from blowing up. It's the impulse response that you're using on the back end of it that will replace the speaker. And if you're not familiar with what an impulse response is, it's a digital signature that says this mic on this speaker in this position sounds like this. That's what it is. It's essentially it's an EQ curve to replace the EQ curve that a speaker provides. So, pardon me. Does the load box replace the speaker? No, but it protects your tube amp from blowing it up. So you need it. You need it, and all the Two Note stuff has that built in. The Captor X, the Torpedo Lives is discontinued now, but it was real popular for a while. I guess Two Notes is planning on coming out with something new to replace it. Buddy of mine who works for Two Notes thinks that maybe they might have pulled the trigger on discontinuing the Live a little bit too early, but at least that's kind of the impression that I got from him. But I don't know. We'll see. They've every time Two Notes comes out with something, they usually come out with something pretty cool. So, but the Captor and the Captor's still around. The Captor X is still around, and it was I think it won best new gear of the year, like 2019 or whatever year it was it came out. There's Two Notes is putting out some pretty cool shit. John Elway or Joe Montana, those guys in Peyton are some of the best I've ever seen. I fucking hate Elway. But yes, there's no denying he was also a great quarterback, as was Montana. Marino. Marino. There's a guy that's a crying shame. That he never made it back to the Super Bowl after he lost the first one. The only one he was in. Honestly, I think Marino's probably better than both of those guys. Dwight Bailey says, hello, have you got any new guitars lately? Guitars? No. Matter of fact, my guitar pile had actually amassed big enough that I got to the point I finally had to unload a few of them. So I sold my Washburn Dime bag. I sold I had an acoustic laying around for the Vango acoustic that I demoed here on the channel a few months back. Still had that thing laying around. So those two recently found some new homes. And I'd like to clear out one or two more, to be honest with you. So, nope, no more new guitars. But I will tell you. Oh, hang on a second here. Mrs. Jackson is hang on one second. Let me reply back to the Mrs. Formerly Guitar Dungeon. There. Sorry about that. So where was I? New guitars. Yes. No new guitars at the moment. The newest amp that I have is the Wong's HD30, which I did. You guys have already seen that in a video. Assuming you saw the video. I did, however, today receive my very first bag of candy. All these years, I have never, until just the last couple of days, placed an order from Sweetwater. Because I work for a competitor of theirs, and there's typically there's not a lot that they have that I can't that I can't buy at a employee cost. However, they did finally just recently have something that I was after that we don't carry. So I got a new toy, a DJI Osmo Action 3 action camera. I was in the market for an action camera, and because I used to hate action cameras. I had one about 7 years ago. It was one of the earlier GoPros. And back then they were, it was that, they've always produced fantastic image quality, but that one was back then. It was either fisheye look or bust. They were all just did the fisheye thing, and I despise the fisheye look. And you couldn't do anything about it. You just that's what you worked with. That's what you lived with. So, I was doing some research here recently and found out they've actually come a long way, and there's you don't actually to use an action camera, you don't have to have that, and they don't have to look like that anymore. So so I did some research, and these DJIs are really, really good, and are getting some really, really good reviews, and they're built like tanks. So Sweetwater happened to have the one I was looking for in stock, so I decided to give them my business. So, and I had a pretty good experience with them too. So I'm going to use that for some guitar stuff, and for some hiking adventure stuff that on my other channel that I'm going to launch here one of these years. Let's see, where was I? Lord Brigo Sama. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but favorite amp and guitar. Favorite guitar that I own. Favorite guitar is that goddamn Gibson Les Paul Custom that's been eluding me for 20 years that I still can't afford. Favorite guitar that I own is my Music Man Majesty. Amps, favorite amp that favorite amp, I guess would, oh man, I don't know. I mean, that I don't own that I would love to have probably would be either Marshall JCM 800. Let's see, JCM 800, Diesel Herbert, and maybe I'm sure there's a number of amps out there that I'd love to have, but those are two that have always been real high on the list. But again, price tags on those are a little pricey as well. Favorite amp that I do currently own, oh boy, probably my 900, my Marshall JCM 900 that you see behind me. Peyton's a great quarterback, but I hated playing against the Colts in Madden because he ran down the entire play clock. Just like he did in real life. Block of Delighter is here, says, evening all. Jack Stollery is here. Mm. Ryan Groot says that was a different era. Today, Marino would have asked for a trade and went to chase a ring. He was for sure an all-time great. And he's in the hall, so and he's absolutely deserves to be there. Archer says, "Hey Robert and fans of the man." Martian Murray says, "You have any interest in Tim Henson's nylon string or similar?" I've kind of wanted to pick up a nylon string, of some kind, just to have it laying around, just because it's they're cool to, they're cool couch guitars, for guys like me, and one thing I've actually never been very good at is finger picking, and that's what better to learn to do that on than a nylon string, right? So, if I were gonna buy one though, would it be the Tim Henson one? Probably not. I would, I think that what is that one? Is an Ibanez or something? I'm not real big on Ibanez's nylon strings or acoustics. If I were going to buy one, it would probably be Yamaha or Cordova or something like that. Rodriguez. In that price range, the more expensive stuff, I'd probably go Taylor. Archer says today's the day that I might pick up a Telly. What's stopping you, dude? Go buy yourself that Telecaster. Fender Custom Telecaster JV and Fire Mist Gold. What's stopping you, dude? I say go spend the money. Buy yourself that guitar. Jeff Sevens here. Says, greetings, guitar nerds. I Am Groot says, my 100th anniversary Les Paul was the last Gibson I will own. Plucked and smooth playing, but anemic pickups, and would not stay in tune more than 5 minutes. No more fixer-upper $2,000 plus guitars for me. Yeah, the 100th anniversary. What was that? I don't know what year that would have been. If it was the 100th anniversary, that would have been what, 82. I don't know. Regardless, that's Gibson. That is Gibson. Yeah, I get why they do it, but like all their really high end, like the R8s, the R9s, all the real high dollar reissue stuff, all those Les Pauls, they always put the put the lower output, like the vintage output humbuckers in, and they do it because that's what basically what came in the originals. But I'm with you. It's like somebody just cut the nuts off of something, and and all of a sudden it doesn't have any balls. Yep, I like higher output pickups. A gold telly, nice. Never seen one before. I don't know if I've ever seen one either, actually. What? Fender Custom Telecaster JV and Fire Mist Gold. Let's see what we got here. I have a computer. Fender. Fender Custom Telly JV. Oh, JV. There it is, Fender JV modified. Gold sparkle. I'm surprised they're able to get away with calling it Fire Mist Gold, because I think that was a Gibson color from the 60s. Maybe not. Or maybe they did it to piss off Gibson. I don't know. I'm not a telly guy, but or a gold top guy, gold guitar guy, but I gotta admit that, with the exception of my Majesty anyway, but I gotta admit that that thing looks pretty sharp. Basswood body, interesting. Not alder. Soft V-shaped neck. That's cool. Rosewood fretboard. Let's see what pick 'em ups does it have. Dual vintage style single coil telly pickups. So interesting. Cool. Mount Salmonella. I'm gonna call you Mount Salmonella 80. You ever try a Harley Benton? I just got a Fusion 3. Dual humbucker Floyd Rose. So far, I'm very impressed for $500. I have never gotten my hands on a Harley Benton, at least not as of yet. So, I don't know. I'll pick one up here one of these days. I've the majority of what I have heard has been positive. So, some QC issues. I know the one that Glenn Fricker demoed. Came with the with the pickups installed backwards. So, they've they're not perfect, but $300, $400, $500 guitars, you're gonna have some of that stuff. So, but most of what I heard has been pretty positive. I haven't heard anybody say they're total garbage. So, at least not that I can recall. Pardon me. And Groot says, I have a Paisley Harley Benton Telly. It's a great player. Fusion looks cool. Andolph says, hey Robert, do you have an opinion on the Indonesia-made Fender Telecaster FMT? It appears to have excellent specs and build quality. Can't find much else on it though. That one, I don't know if they reissued those. The Fender, so Telly. I don't know if they're. Oh yeah. I've not played the current versions of these, but these have actually been around in both the Fender and the Squier lines for a number of years. I mean, like back in the the 2000s, maybe early 2000s, maybe even the late 90s, early 2000s, I think. They had the series called the Showmasters. And they made both a Fender and a Squier version of those, and it was basically what you got there. They were great guitars. Jeff Seven says John 5 has a gold sparkle telly. Well, John 5 has pretty much every telly. I don't know if he's he for a while he was trying to collect all of the original vintage Telecasters from through from 51, I think, all the way up through, I don't know, early 60s at some point. But he was, every single one of those is what he was trying to get a hold of. And the last I heard him talk about that was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was still missing a few, but I imagine he's probably tracked a few of them down since then. Yeah, if you want to see an amazing Fender Telecaster collection, go check out John Fives, because I don't know that anybody loves Tellies more than that guy does. Let's. So Vinny says you're going to any shows. Pantera. Pardon me. Looking at the schedule here, all the major venues here in Indianapolis. The Pantera one is currently, anyway. I mean, still early. There's still plenty of tours to be added, but currently Pantera is the only one that I have any interest in going to see. So I'm probably going to go see that, because I think they're coming in June or July, and I'm taking Mrs. Jackson to go see Impractical Jokers in July as well. So, but so far that's all I've got on the docket as far as shows. Concert tickets have gotten so freaking expensive anyway. It pisses me off having to pay for them. Bart Kingery says, I'm looking at the new Harley Benton Birch cabs. If they, now I think Harley Benton finally has a U.S. supplier. That one reason why I have not ordered anything from them is because, while the prices are great, they all ship from overseas, and by the time they get over here from Germany or wherever it is that they ship from in Europe, the U.S. Customs has a tendency to demolish everything that comes over here from there. These days, I don't understand why, but they do. So. And there's a lot of people that were buying Harley Benton stuff from overseas that were experiencing that. So, they think that now they've got a U.S. reverb shop or something like that. You can finally buy them domestically, but but I haven't done it yet. So, like I said, I just spent money on a camera. So. So I was afraid of the pickups, but I was pleasantly surprised. I'm keeping them. I had to take a touch of sprout off, but no leveling. Yeah, that's pretty common with import fenders these days. Even some of the USA fenders, the sharp frets, unfortunately. That's really it's not really Fender's fault either. They sit in the warehouse long enough. That's going to happen to any guitar. Let's see. Archer says, okay, not to start anything, no bashing. What's the fascination with Floyd Rose bridges? Tuning stability for one. Honestly, tuning stability for, that's probably their biggest advantage. I mean, you put up a properly set up Floyd Rose tremolo against just about anything else out there, and I guarantee you the guitar with the Floyd on is going to stay in tune a lot better. And it's it's really the design that is. The Kahler, same is true with Kahlers and pretty much any other locking tremolo system, but. But also because of that, that's where all those crazy dive bombs from the 80s came from, because everybody was playing, all those guys were all playing Floyds and other, similar locking tremolos that were all allowing them to be able to do that. You tried it on a Strat or something back in the, 60s or 70s, and, it would do it, but it wouldn't stay in tune. So, those old vintage style tremolos just aren't designed for that kind of, that kind of heavy duty use. So yeah, I like Floyd Roses. I like them a lot. Now the downside to them is obviously, once they're set up, that's where they're set. It's to take one to go to, instantly go to drop D or something like that without a D tuner on it, or something like that. Just to take a standard Floyd Rose and drop it, down to drop D tuning or something like that. There's usually a lot of work involved. You're a lot better off picking up a different guitar. Jeff Seven says Goodwill online auction had a few Strats and Tellys the past few weeks. American Standards and Road Worn. Also a shitload of Squire and Epiphone. I haven't paid attention to the Goodwill online stuff in a long time. You used to be able to find a few sleepers out there. But I haven't checked in years. Archer says, wife just said, listen to Robert, let's go buy it. There you go, dude. Sounds to me like you're going to buy yourself a guitar today. Happy New Guitar Day. Groot says, for me, it's the tuning stability. Once I learned to play without moving the bridge, it let me tolerate them. I'm with you, not my favorite. Yeah, I like Floyd's, but I don't. I honestly I go both ways. I mean, the guitar that I use for most of my videos is my Schecter CR6 these days, anyway, which doesn't have a tremolo at all on it. It's just a good old fashioned string through hardtail, or kind of a fixed bridge, and it stays in tune great, and I honestly I don't find myself missing a tremolo on it. If I need one, I'll grab another guitar that has it, but yeah, I mean I can go both ways, but Scott Brockway says Floyd Rose was the first floating trem that stayed in tune. The early Floyd Rose were a huge pain in the ass, though, because they were, there wasn't. I think that, I mean, the strings that the earliest designs, they worked, but I think the strings had to be cut to a very, very specific length, So there was something about those that didn't that made them not a good design. Park Kingery says, I think my gear buying days are ending. Need to sell some stuff. Well, I know you have bought a lot of gear recently, and I know that because I've sold a lot of it to you. But honestly, the same with me. I'm backing off here for a while as well. I don't. The last thing I need is more gear. If I can't get the sound out of all the shit that I'm surrounded with, it doesn't exist. Dave Ellison is coming to town with his thrash tour. I have to think that's going to be good. Could be. I don't know. I mean, part of me says, it's kind of, it might be cool to see what Dave Ellison does with his own gig. The other part of me says, he was a right-hand man in Megadeth for all those years for a reason, and then there was also that, that period where he had, where he had left Megadeth for a few years, and nobody heard anything from him. I don't know. I'm not trying to talk trash about him. I like David Ellison. Honestly, I want him to do well. He's the original Megadeth bassist. He's he's one of the original bass players for the Big Four thrash metal bands. He's got a pretty strong legacy, and like I said, I would like to see him do well. I don't know. I guess like most new music with me, I'm skeptical. I'm always skeptical of new music. Gear Junkie 35 says Goodwill Finds has good guitar sales too. I scored a Silverbird Lotus Strat for $60. Pretty sure it's Japanese. Nice. Janice Lala is here. She says, hi, I would like to know about different tunings. Do you play chords the same way, like playing a G with a different tuning? No. I've never really experienced too much with like open tunings, if that's what you're referring to. Open D and, open A and dadgad and all that kind of stuff. I've never really experienced much with it, but I do know that, there's some stuff, your chord shapes do change, but, the advantage to switching to a lot of those open tunings is there's not really, chord shapes to be grabbed because, one finger more or less will play the chord that you need, or an open strum will play the chord that you need, whatever it might be. I know songs like Kashmir by Led Zeppelin was played in open tuning, open A maybe or open D, and just got paid by ZZ Top. I think is recorded in open A. You can play it in standard tuning, but I think Billy Gibbons recorded that song and played it in open A. Box fan says, just watch the retirement video, LOL, but still see gear in the background, LOL. Well, I didn't retire. I just retired the old name of the channel is all that was retired. So, it was what I've been talking about. I've been talking about that for 6 months now. Maybe not quite that long, but close to it. So I was originally going to change the name of it to Robert Jackson - The Guitar Dungeon. Similar to what Adam Steele did with Hot Pole Studios. I was gonna follow that format, and then finally, somebody else recently launched a channel, in the last few months or last year or so that launched a channel on YouTube and called it the Guitar Dungeon. So I was like, what, just I thought about making a big stink of it, but I was like, fuck it, let him have it. I don't want it anymore anyway, so just change it to my name and be done with it. Go through the growing pains, and if there are any, and call it a day. Earliest Floyds didn't have fine tuners, that's what it was. I couldn't imagine I never tightened a nut and don't have some strings go sharp or flat. Yeah, that's what it was. I remember now. No fine tuners, which, that makes a Floyd Rose pretty redundant. Archer says, bye all. Woohoo, new guitar day. New guitar day, bitches. Well, enjoy, dude. Oh, we got here. Kashmir was Dadgad. Okay, there it is. I knew it was an alternate tuning. I just couldn't remember which one. I haven't played that song since I was a kid, I don't think. Box fan says Page made the Pauls iconic, as in Les Pauls. Or I don't know, man. The argument could be made for that, certainly. But I don't know. Zeppelin came out in what was it, 68 or something, and yeah, somewhere around there. Les Pauls have been around for 15 years at least by that point. And we're still fairly popular, and Sabbath were already around, and Tony Iommi was already playing. He'd been playing SGs forever, so Gibson was very, very much on the map for the rock and roll, what became the metal genre. But at the same time, thinking back, other than maybe Clapton and Jeff Beck, I don't know really, what other well-known rock guitar players. Hey, Peter Green. Yeah, I guess there's a few of them out there, but but I guess Jimmy Page is probably, of all those, Jimmy Page is probably the most famous Les Paul player from that era. Let's see. Box Fan says Phil's got his own name on his channel, and then he put his KYG and graphics in the video. I think that KYG, that might also have something to do with that new guitar line that he just launched with the Tone King. I kind of like to try those out. I think they look cool as shit. Janice Lawless, great play in your last. Oh, you're not talking to me. Never mind. Box Fan says no love for the Kaler. Now for me there is actually between Floyd's and Kalers. I prefer Kalers, but they're not. For some reason it's just that Floyd's are the ones that have the corner on the market. You go buy a new guitar with a locking trem on it or a floating tremolo, and it's going to have a Floyd on it instead of a Kaler. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you what guitar brands right now are using Kalers. Unfortunately, I wish there was more. Let's see. Eric Filsinger says Neil Young used Drop D. Well, a lot of people use Drop D, and Drop D is it's an alternate tuning, but it's not alternate open tuning. Drop D is still standard tuning except for just one string. I Am Groot says, I think Slash helped the Les Paul stay relevant as the Super Strat era broke out. I argue that Slash saved Gibson from the Super Strat era because Gibson. Matter of fact, I actually talk about this in the video that you guys are going to see tomorrow. But back in the '80s, 87 when Appetite for Destruction came out, Gibson was hurting. They were not competing in the market very well at all. Back then it was all shred machines. If you weren't shredding, you weren't playing. And Gibson tried to come out with a couple. They came out with the US-1, which is a Super Strat model that I actually do really like. But they didn't do very well. They came out with a couple of others that sucked. They came out with some weird pointy shit, like the what's the name of that weird one? I can't remember the name of it right now. But they came out with some stuff. Me personally, as a pointy guitar fan, I actually did like, but the market as a whole at that time, it wasn't going to pull anybody away from buying Jacksons or Ibanez's or anything like that. It just wasn't going to happen. So finally, Guns N' Roses came out. Slash is playing a Les Paul, even though it was a fake Les Paul. It was a Les Paul. Nobody knew it at the time. So, when they came out, it basically it saved Gibson's Ass. Plain and simple. Let's see. Box fan says Page got his first Paul from Beck. Page used to tell you before that. Pink Torpedo says, how do you feel about the Marshall MOSFET? Why do you ask? Beck Box fan says, ever see the Sawtooth hybrid guitars like set up with Paul and Strat in the same guitar at all at once? LOL, freaky one. The Sawtooth, that's the Michelangelo Batio's guitar brand. You know, I've seen them, and some of them look okay, some of them look, some of them look a little cheap, honestly. Yeah. No idea. Yeah, I mean, I've never played them, so I can't say. I mean, they could be amazing, but there's not a whole lot of, visually from what I've seen, there's not a whole lot of incentive there for me to want to go check them out. Let's see. Kaler Lover, okay, unsubscribed. Bye. Charles 75 ends says, other than the name change, any other major changes to the channel, I've been in and out and wet sanding, so forgive me if you already covered this. No, I mean, not really anything to cover, just a new name. It's more simplified name, and that's really about it. And I'm in the middle of upgrading my, some of my video equipment and my cameras, and I'm gonna try my luck at installing some lights to give it the quote unquote YouTube look a little bit more. Try to make things look a little bit cooler and a little bit more YouTubey, for lack of a better description. But beyond that, that's really about it. I don't know. Part of me says I might just start getting away from gear demos altogether. Or at least a lot more than I have been, just because nobody seems to have any interest in them anymore. So, let's see. Scott Brockway says Gibson dropped the ball by not giving James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett endorsement deals back then. I don't know about back then, but now, here, recently in the last several years, more than once, James Hetfield's been on record saying he doesn't want anything to do with Gibson. He's, as far as an endorsement deal goes, I think his experience dealing with him every time that that they've wanted to talk to him about it, there's been just a shitload of red tape, way too difficult for him to even want to mess with. He said there's people they've got such high turnover. Your rep changes from one month to the next. You never talk to the same person twice, it seems like. So so now every time you got to talk to him about something, whoever it was, whoever your artist rep was before is now gone, and the new, you got to catch up the new person, and, it's just, he just has not had a good experience with him at all. And even Kirk Hammett, who did just recently sign a Gibson endorsement, his ESP endorsement is still intact. So, I mean, he's Kirk Hammett. He can be endorsed by two companies at once, and I'm quite sure that that was a stipulation with signing on the Gibson, that I'm still an ESP guy, and and they've been good to me, and and I'm not leaving them, So if you want me on your roster, it's going to be in addition to, not exclusively. At least that's what I gathered. So, but yeah, and then I get, back then, I guess, the other thing to keep in mind, back in the early 80s, when, in 83, 84, 85, when, those early Metallica albums were coming out, and they were still playing Gibsons pretty regularly, endorsement deals, I guess, were a thing, but, signature guitars were not so much. I mean, there was a few out there, but nothing like you have nowadays. So, let's see. Pink Torpedo says, dude, I'm desperate for an answer. Is there a way to adapt a 16 ohm amp to an 8 ohm Marshall 412 MG cab? Marshall doesn't give a shit to answer my question. You are my last hope. 16 ohm amp to an 8 ohm. Yes, don't do it. The only way. Let's see. 16 ohm into an 8. I guess technically you can, because you're going from a amp of lower resist, or a higher resistance amp into a lower resistance cab. So it's not like anything would be restricted, but just as a rule of thumb, I never screw with it. I always match up the resistance ohm ratings, on the head and the cab. If it's 8 ohm head, 8 ohm cab, period. 16 ohm head, 16 ohm cab, period. And I've never blown anything up because of it. So, Pink Torpedo says, just curious if I should buy one. I'm assuming that's referring to the Marshall MOSFET that you asked about earlier. If you should buy one, do you like the sound of it? I mean, that should be your answer right there. Who cares what I think? Groot says, yes, a modded replica of a Gibson saved Gibson. That's pretty accurate. Let's see. Alex 2112 says, Robert has got a Marshall Origin 5C combo, the one that everybody hates on YouTube. This thing is absolute killer. I'm playing it right now. Sounds great with Les Paul. I like the Marshall Origins, man. I mean, now the latest thing I'm seeing with those is people are buying them and instantly having them modded by. If Park is still in the chat, he can tell you, because he had his modded by the company whose name I can't recall. But that seems to be the popular thing to do right now. But honestly, if I were going to buy a Marshall Origin, it would be either a 20 or a 50, and I wouldn't touch it at all, because I like the sound of them as they are. They sound like Plexis to me. I don't know whatever was wrong with that sound. And the other thing is, if you want a high gain sound out of them, I mean, one thing they were designed for was to be really, really good pedal platforms. So, if you want more gain, throw a pedal in front of it. I dig the Marshall Origin Series amps a lot, man. I think they're killer. That's one on my list that's been on there for a while. I've just never got around to buying it. Box fan says, not a lot of love for the Schecters with the Strat shaped body, but Gibson scale and HH setup, fixed bridge, PRS like finish, and smooth neck through construction. Just means they're affordable used. I've been saying for a while, man. As far as import guitars go, maybe even U.S. American made guitars as well. There's not really a better bang for your buck out there than Schecter, and that's been the case for years. You get a lot of guitar for the money. That the CR6 that I play in so many of my videos, I paid that was a $700 guitar when I bought it. The price has since gone up to, well, let me rephrase that. It was a $700 guitar when I bought it. It often went on sale for about $549, and now it's, those prices have increased by about $100. So, very, very affordable by today's standards. Scott Brockway says, "Oh, I like twisty knobby mode." I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm just kicking the idea around, or trying to think of what I can do differently. God, there's so many gear channels out there now. So many of them are doing demos, and frankly, a lot of them are doing demos better than I am. I put up a pedal demo. It could be the coolest pedal in the world. That Animalizer pedal that I demoed here a couple of weeks ago. That thing was kick ass, and I think maybe way less than 1,000 of you watched that video. There's just you guys just don't care about about gear demos too much anymore. At least not from me. Box fan says gear demos need to be tied to referrals to bring in revenue. Negative. Nope. Those two. I don't even talk about. I don't even talk about my full-time employer on my channel because they are. I like to keep those two entities completely separate. And avoid any conflict of interest. Fender dropped the ball with John Mayer, but at least they still got the EVH stuff. Well, Fender licenses EVH, but the EVH brand, while it's still technically under the under the Fender umbrella, all especially all the older stuff, all that stuff all went through that was all their own designs, and particularly the earliest stuff, all of it, none of it went to market without Eddie himself signing off on it. So nowadays they're obviously there's a few new figures in place. James Brown's working for him, for example, and he's designing some stuff, some really cool stuff. The new 5150 Iconics are his design. But all that stuff is, Fender doesn't, I don't think, the Fender office doesn't really put their hands too much into what EVH puts out. They just license it. Kind of, same thing they do with Gretsch, now Fender with John Mayer, those, the John Mayer thing, that was an actual Fender endorsement, and his guitar was actual Fender product. And, they, that relationship went south in a hurry. And, and as soon as he got out, and he seems pretty happy at PRS now, and they seem to be taking pretty good care of him. His guitars are selling like hotcakes over there. Honestly, I think he's selling way more guitars to PRS than he ever did with Fender. Because with Fender, there was a lot of people out there that just thought his signature guitar was very, very, it was way too close to an SRV. SRV signature. It was too, almost an SRV knockoff. So, visually anyway, the specs, a lot of the specs were different, but they looked, it looked awfully similar. So, let's see, you guys are typing faster than I'm able to keep up here today. Groot says Gibson's quality control issues may have improved, but over the last 25 years, that alone would have kept me from wanting to sign with them. Yeah, they had a few. What was Bill Keller's? Remember his endorsement deal with Gibson? That didn't last long. He also had a pretty miserable experience. But they've also just signed a lot of big name artists. They got Dave Mustaine, and they got his name on 3 different brands of guitars. They got Dave Mustaine. They've got they just signed Jerry Cantrell. Among others. I think it's it's only going to be a matter of time before Zakk Wylde comes back. So. Pink Torpedo, I get that, but is there an impedance adapter that you know of? No such thing as an impedance adapter that I know of. The only impedance adapter would be to rewire the cab. You guys are still talking amps and cabs. Edson Camargo is here. That's a name I'm not familiar with. Welcome, sir. Bart Kingery says, I love my modded Orden 50 from Monomyth. That's what I'm thinking of. Monomyth amps or Monomyth amplification. That's the one. That's what I'm thinking of. That they're the ones that are modding Marshall Origin series. Jackson Emmerich says, never played a tube amp. Dude, go down to your local guitar shop, man. Plug into one. See what you're missing. Scott Brockway says, pedal market is oversaturated now. That's why there's not as much interest. It's way oversaturated. Guitar market's getting there, too. I mean, and amps, really. I mean, God, every time you turn around, there's a new boutique tube amp company that's, making some, high gain monster, that you never heard of. Selling for $4,000 or $5,000. Armored amps or armored amplification, whatever they're called. They're the ones that I keep, whose ads keep popping up on my Facebook feed here recently. It was Driftwood not too long ago. There's a bunch of those companies out there. That's a Camargo says there's lots of gear demo channels, but with you, Robert, we have no bullshit, straight talk all the time. Yeah, and I appreciate that, but that's realistically that's true with most of those other channels. I don't. It is a huge misconception about journalists you're influencing. They're not telling. They're not giving honest review. Bullshit. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Nobody's opinion is for sale. Nobody's opinion is for sale, and that's generally in the paperwork that that is signed, from vendors when these arrangements are made. I've learned to work that into my agreements up front. Make sure and everybody has an understanding that my opinion is not for sale, and I was taught that by many other people. So yeah, no, I really wish people would stop buying into that. Let's see. I am Groot says I have not been an active buyer for gear. I'm lucky to have more guitars, pedals, and amps than I can play regularly. That keeps me off the reviews a lot versus when I'm in buy mode. Yeah, that does help a lot too. People tend to watch a lot more reviews when they're in buying mode, and myself included. When I'm not in buying mode, I'm not looking for gear demos. So, Jack Bird says, Robert, a commercial just popped up right in the middle of you speaking about something. It's a monetized channel. I don't control when YouTube throws ads in there. And that's, let's face it, that's YouTube's ultimate goal, to put you in front of ads. I Am Grouped says Mark Agnesi went from managing a guitar shop doing demos on YouTube to helping Gibson reboot into a cool brand again. They need to make some changes, and it does seem to be working. I think that I think they're definitely they're heading in the right direction, but honestly, I think things at Gibson were so jacked up for so many years. I mean, you're not going to turn that around in a year or two. It's going to take time, and honestly, my opinion, a lot, that you still hear about, as far as complaints about Gibson's Gibson's quality control, and I bought a Les Paul, sharp frets, and this, that, and a lot of that is just guitar players bitching and moaning that it didn't play like $1,000,000 right out of the box. And they had to actually get their truss rod tool out and make an adjustment or two and tune the thing up. So I think a lot of the complaining is really that. Some of it's warranted. There's definitely they're definitely not perfect. And some of that stuff is, like I said, some of that stuff is warranted, and some of that stuff is true, and then there's some people that, that feel that, that they paid, $2,500 for a guitar, a little teeny tiny, finish flaw the size of this, screw head, shouldn't be present and is enough worth returning. I don't know. I mean, I suppose that's a matter of, opinion, especially if it's in a really inconspicuous spot. I'm not sure I would return a guitar over that, but, but some people seem to think that that they should. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess I think they are heading in the right direction. They are making some improvements, but I don't know. They honestly, I think they probably need to start paying their employees more and not raise their prices. Not raise their prices, to pay for it. I mean, just, flat out pay their employees more. They've got plenty of financial backing to do it now. It's just a scientifically, it's a study. It's been studied over and over again. It's a proven fact. You pay your employees more money, they're going to be happier. They're going to be happier, and they're going to want to stick around longer. That's how you eliminate turnover. Park Kingery says, speaking of wild, love my Wild Audio Nomad guitar. Yeah, yeah. I was actually just thinking about that when I mentioned Zach Wild earlier. So I hadn't heard from you, so I assumed that you enjoyed it. Hmm. Jackson Emmerich says there's no guitar stores near me. I have to go 30 minutes to Castleton, Indiana. Well, that's not that far though. I mean 30-minute drive, to a guitar shop. And that's the store I used to run. So I mean I know exactly where it is. I don't know where you're located, but 30. I mean put it in perspective. 30 minutes ain't that far. There's a lot of other cities in this country, where traffic is really a thing, and like it, not like what we have here, but I mean, really a thing. Like you can be like Chicago, you can be, the big store, there in central Chicago, the one on Halstead. There, I remember talking to one of the managers at that store. She lived about 8 miles away, and it took her 45 minutes to get there every day. So, 30 minutes in much of a commute. Listen to some jams, but they're on a podcast. Unless you just absolutely hate driving. I don't know, I guess I'm different because I enjoy driving, um, but yeah, that's I was just in that store the other day trying to track down some boxes. So it's the first time I've been in there in a long time. But I was getting some boxes to ship some guitars out. I was just in there the other day. I know they have plenty of tube amps. So yeah, if you never played through one, go in there, let's just go plug into one 15, 20 minutes, see what you've been missing. Head First is one doing mods. I just heard of them for the first time this week. Scott Brockway says Head First is doing something no other amp make is doing, though. 10-channel MIDI controlled analog is something I want. 10-channel MIDI controlled analog. Interesting. That's in Camargo says, Robert, what about the analog amp sims more popular 15 years ago? Still worth a try. Analog amp sims, well, I mean, to my knowledge, all amp sims are, digital because they're software. So, unless you're talking about like modeling amps or something like that, but even then, those, those are still digital effects. Yeah, some of them are better than others. I did a video, I don't know, 6 months or a year ago now on IK Multimedia Amplitude 5. And the version of that I have has a couple of Engel amps in it. That one in particular, I used the E650, Engel E650, which is a rip-roaring high-gain amplifier. And it's, it sounds pretty kick-ass to me, They don't sound like amplifier speakers. They're not designed for that. They're designed to be thrown into a mix, and EQ'd and, to work, play nice with other instruments. That's what, pardon me, that's what they're designed for. Whereas, a lot of other amplifiers, like Mr. Marshall back here, they don't give a shit about, they didn't give a shit about computers or any of that stuff when that thing was built. They cared about what it sounded like when somebody plugged into it and turned it on, played through it. So, they're different. I sometimes use amp sims just for convenience, really, more than anything else. But it's never going to replace an actual amplifier, particularly tube amps. Not for me. Pink Torpedo says, oh wait, my wife bought me a Class 5. Do you know if they take pedals well? Just don't want to blow my first amp up. Class 5s, they were really designed at that, the time they came out, they were only like $400. They were, and they were designed to be affordable sounding Marshalls, Plexi style Marshalls, but and they weren't overly loud, but they did produce a good tone. I know a lot of guys that were actually buying 2 of them, to mic up on stage. So they're just like anything else. Do you like the sound of it? If you do, go buy it. Who cares what I think? Yeah, and the back of the tube amp thing. I mean, that's tube amps are not the only game in town. There's a lot of great sounding solid state amps out there, especially nowadays. I'm sitting right next to a Marshall Mode 4 that has a 2 preamp but a solid state power amp section. You guys know I love that amp. So, I think that's the only tube. I think everything else I have in here is tubes, but I mean, there's a lot of great solid state amps out there. Roland JC120, is a classic. It's been around forever. I do. Despite my wise ass answer, to somebody in the chat earlier, I actually do really, really like the Marshall MOSFET stuff from the late 80s. Those are basically solid state versions of JCM 800s. The Orange Crush amps that was the Crush Pro or the Super Crush or whatever they're calling them nowadays. Those things are real popular and sound real good. There's a lot of good solid state stuff out there nowadays. Let's see. Fabian Dorian says, I'm building my own cabs. That's a money savings in my book. A lot of guys are doing that. RR says, hello, I was looking to get a power attenuator. Any suggestions on which will not change the tone too much? I was thinking of Fryette. The Fryettes are nice. I don't know. I guess it depends on how much you want to attenuate. Really. I mean, if you want to, one of the more affordable ones out there actually is the Weber attenuators. I think you got to buy those direct from their website, but, the Weber is in the speaker company. But they make some great attenuators. I guess another thing is gonna play into that is how what amp are you using, how many watts is it? So, the Fryette stuffs are good. The some of the Cook stuff is okay. I demoed one of those on my channel a while back. If they're assuming theirs are still around. Let's see. 2 notes. Especially if you're looking for, cab sims and stuff like that. 2-note stuff is hard to beat. Again, depending on how much you want to attenuate, is going to depend on which of their models would be the right choice. But Jackson Emmerich says, I'm 15, I can't drive yet. My parents work. I get that, but still, hitch a ride to the buddy. If you're 15, you're in high school, you got to have a couple friends that are driving now. Get a couple of guitar buddies, go drive down to the music shop. That's what we did when I was a kid. We all piled into somebody's car, went and hung out at Guitar Center for an hour or two to see what was cool, see what was in. Jam on some tube amps. Serenity says, I played so many guitars and I judge them on pickups. Pain is a factor only if not used. Cheap and upgrade is okay. New guitars just need to be made good and not use wacky parts. Yeah, pickups. Yeah, honestly, for me, I mean, pickups are. Glenn Fricker just put up a video recently, debunking the myth about how pickups affect guitar tone, and it's pretty convincing. I mean, that's nothing that I didn't already know, but when it comes to pickups, I mean, output and clarity, are pretty much all pickups are good for. EQ, no. Hmm. You guys are all talking amongst yourselves. Jack Bird says you could do interviews on your channel. It'll be rough at first, but you can do it. Possibly. It's something I have considered. Something I have considered. Give me a minute here, guys. I'm just catching up in the chat. Okay. All right. Well, you guys are all chatting amongst yourselves in the chat. So, cool. In that case, I'm going to go enjoy my Sweetwater candy and go mess around with my new camera. So, yeah. Check out the video going up tomorrow, and adios.